To start off this video, I want to say two things. Number one, I am trying something brand new and it's just for fun. And number two, that means I am definitely not an expert. I've been seeing other people use this DOS clay and I wanted to give it a try. It's actually been on my list of projects to try for quite some time. So just after opening it, I noticed it was quite squishy, similar to regular clay, but after smoothing some things out when I got to working with it, I swear the grooves came back. I don't know if I was doing something wrong or if I needed to add clay instead of just smoothing it out with water, but you'll kind of see what I mean later on. If you're a clay expert or you've worked with this clay before, maybe tell me in the comments down below if that's something normal or maybe I was just doing the wrong thing. But my idea here was to make something like an ornament or maybe just a decoration that is Christmassy. And of course, because I've been wanting to do this for a long time, I was completely prepared. That is why I decided to use a Posca pin as a rolling pin instead of getting a regular rolling pin. So I actually just ended up using random stuff I found around my house because I figured it was good enough and I wanted to just jump right in. I didn't want to have to go and buy a bunch of new clay tools for something as simple as what I'm going to make. So after rolling it out and making it, fairly thin but not too thin, I decided to use cookie cutters to cut out the shape. And of course, I went with like the most difficult shape ever for my first time, an angel. Not only does there a lot of details on an angel, but it's a human with a face. So at the end, it's not my best project. It's definitely not my best. Is it the worst? Is it an epic fail? I don't know, but it definitely could have been a lot better. But again, something that I just wanted to try for fun. Now, because I wanted this to be either an ornament or also a place for a halo, I used this random wire I found in my craft room to make a hole on the top of her head. And then I started sculpting out the pieces. Now, even though I say I'm new at this, I have had experience with clay before in high school, and I did take one sculpture class in college. And actually this week, I'm doing all my clay projects pretty much with my 4th and 6th graders. So I'm getting pretty used to using clay at this point. But I decided to make a couple arms, and using a butter knife I found in my kitchen, I just cut out really simple thumb and fingers. I didn't want to make it too complicated. And then this is where I thought, ooh, I'm going to get real fancy and make the wings super 3D and sculpt all these little feathers. And that didn't work out so well. I mean, it's okay, but they end up looking a little crusty in the end. So after cutting out a bunch of rectangles, I just smoothed out the ends to make them look a little bit more like an oval and started placing them on there to see if I had enough room and how many I actually needed to sculpt. They ended up being a little bit long, so I had to trim them down just a tiny bit, but they all ended up fitting in the end. Now, I actually debated scrapping this entire project. Even after recording all the sculpting and all the painting, I just was still doubting, should I even share this with people, because it's not the best thing ever. But I decided that it's okay to still share your failures. It's okay to still share things that you're not too proud of, because in the end, this was still for fun, and it might even give you an idea to say, hey, I could try that too, or that would be a fun project with my kids, or something like that. So if you just noticed there, I used the top of a Christmas tree cookie cutter to make a star, because I do want my angel to hold a star. And now I'm just using the head shape to make the hair. And I really do not like her hairstyle. I don't know what I was thinking, but the hair gets kind of tall and big and a little bit pointy on the ends. But I was just trying to, make some kind of feminine looking hairstyle. What really annoys me is I actually have a picture of an angel I drew quite some time ago in a different sketchbook, but I could not find it. And whenever I was finally painting this, I found the picture and it was so cute. And I liked it so much better than how this one turned out, but that's okay. So now that I have all the pieces made, I'm doing something called scoring, and this is key to attaching your pieces. You just need to rough up the clay pretty well and also get it wet. Now with some clay, you do need something called slip, which is just basically this muddy clay mixture that's kind of like the glue. But for this one, I thought it was wet enough that I could just stick it to it. I don't think slip is necessary for something like this air dry clay. Now, after attaching them with some water, you also have to go around and squish down the edges a little bit just to make sure that the pieces are securely attached. And I did that with the star, and I'm also doing that with the arms. Now, her arms are quite fat because I thought that I could maybe, once I was squishing them down, they would get a little bit smaller in size, but they still stayed quite round. After finishing attaching the hair and the arms, I went in and started attaching all the little feathers, and this was probably the most time-consuming part. Now this is where I started smoothing out some areas, trying to make it look not so bumpy from where I had been attaching things. And like I said earlier, after it dried, I felt like it kind of popped back out, all the grooves and everything. So after several hours of sculpting, I had a wrinkled dress, oven mitt hands, buff arms, and a huge forehead. So even I thought maybe a paint job could save this project. So after letting it dry for about 2 days, I came back to it and decided to start painting. After it dries, it's this nice pure white color, and I used a fairly simple paint palette. I didn't want to do anything too crazy, but I did want to add quite a bit of detail just to try to salvage it, just to try to make it look as nice as I could. Now, I made the mistake of painting the arms completely skin color, but then I realized I don't want her to be sleeveless, so I do go back in and change that. So the first thing I did was just paint the face and the arms, and with everything like normal, I do paint over everything at least 2 times to give it a nice coat. I don't know why, but whenever I think of angels, I just think of them wearing a really pretty blue dress sometimes. So I chose this nice light blue color for the dress, and I am going to try to do a little bit of value here in a little bit, just to add some shading so it's not just solid flat colors. After getting everything painted, 1 or 2 solid coats, I also started adding in some more details, like I mentioned earlier, the sleeves. I really do think this helped make her arms not look quite so large. It made them kind of blend in more to the dress, and I also went around all the edges with the paint as well. Now this is where I'm starting to add some value with a little bit of a darker color. I really wanted to try to make this look as best as I could, but nothing too crazy. I didn't want to just go nuts and try to make it look super realistic, because obviously it is not super realistic. But I did think a little bit of shading might help. Now you might be thinking, man, this girl is really terrible at painting. But actually, I'm pretty good at it. So this is something that I've actually painted. I painted that, but I never finished it. And you might be wondering, if you can paint that, why are you painting this? Well, it's actually because I find this more fun. I find this more entertaining. And it's just something lighthearted that I can do instead of a serious painting all the time. Now I decided to paint her hair red, and this is when it dawned on me. I was making Daphne from Scooby-Doo. This is what it reminded me of, but actually the reason why I was painting it with red hair is because I have red hair, and I just tend to be drawn towards red-headed characters. So I went ahead and just did the wings white, and I wanted to try to do a little bit of shading on the wings, but don't get too attached to this because this goes away. In the end, I thought that they just looked really dirty, so I paint them all white. I'm using some metallic paint that I had and did a little bit of metallic paint on the star. And using a little technique that I just discovered a while back, I use a Posca paint pen and then spread it around with a paintbrush, and it makes nice blush. I decided to do a simple face using my dotting tool, and I chose a brown color because I thought black would just be too harsh. And her eyes are looking down and her mouth is also open. Maybe she's singing a song, maybe she's looking at her little star. And I decided to also do a simple little nose. Now the eyes got a little thick, so I did go back over and paint a little bit of the skin color just to thin the eyes out. I'm finally starting to add all the fun details. I want there to be some white accents on her dress, so I did some lace around the bottom, a little collar around her neck, and I'm also going to be doing some cuffs around her sleeves. Now this wasn't enough for me. I wanted to do some more detail, so using my dotting tool, I added some little dots on the edge of the sleeves and also the collar around her neck, just to make it look like it had a little bit of a lace detail on the bottom of each thing. Now one of the last few details I do use a larger dotting tool to add some blue dots along the edge, And I decided to bring in some silver color as well, so I'm using my metallic Posca paint pen to do a little silver outline along the white areas, so along the neck, that lacy border around the edge of her dress, and also some around the sleeves. I thought this was a nice little extra detail, not necessary, but just nice. Now this is where I'm trying something a little different. I squeezed out a little bit of silver glitter glue on each of the wings. You can notice here I did paint them all white. And using my brush, I just spread that around so it gave it a really nice shiny glittery look. And I'm using a regular pipe cleaner just to make a halo. So even though I do think I'm going to use this as a Christmas ornament, I also used the hole to attach the halo. And here she is in all her glory, the finished angel. Even though this is not my favorite project, I still think I want to try to do other clay things in the future. And maybe this video inspired you to try new things and know that it's okay to not love everything that you make. Sometimes it's just about having fun. If you did like this video, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe if you love Christmas crafts all year long. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.